What's going on, podcast listeners? My name is Michael Chernow. I am a restaurateur and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I am truly obsessed with living a life better than yesterday through wellness, fitness, and good vibes. I've always wondered if the drive to succeed is something we are born with, or if it's something that is made over time through grit, drive, and perseverance. I get to answer that question exactly, and the goal of this podcast is to talk with people that have absolutely crushed it in life and have inspired me to do the same. This is Born or Made. Here. And I'm going to start recording here. Boom, boom. Full battery. And we're going to do this.
Beautiful.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. Today, I have got a big man on the pod. His name is Ettore Ewen. He goes as Big E. He's a WWE professional wrestler. I just want to mention something that I was an enormous wrestling fan growing up, huge wrestling fan growing up. And I can kind of say it sort of shaped my childhood when it was WWF wrestling. And so Big E is also a record-holding champion USA powerlifter. The dude squatted 711 pounds. He deadlifted 799 pounds. What happened to that last pound, by the way? I want to ask you what happened to that last pound.
Well, so I did, my powerlifting was all in the USAPL, and everything, if you go to a powerlifting meet, everything you're going to do is going to be in kilos. So that's the mark. You're just, and when my best deadlift ever is 806 pounds in a gym. So like, I was getting to the point where I was right at my max. And with that pull too, and the beautiful thing was, so this, people might not care about this, but I'm telling anyways. So this was in Scranton, Pennsylvania in 2011, USAPL Nationals. And I ended up winning, became a national champion, but I tied. And the way it works is, for anyone who is into powerlifting, you probably heard the name Blaine Sumner. He's incredible. But I competed against him, and we had the exact same total, but he was enormous. He was probably about 340 pounds that day, and I was 290, 295, and the tie goes to the runner in powerlifting. So because I was lighter in body weight and we had the same exact numbers, I was crowned champion. But it's incredible. Like, he squatted 1,000 pounds many times in his life. He's an incredible human being. So the fact that I was able to be as good as him on one day was pretty cool.
That's amazing, dude. I mean, powerlifting, and I want to get into it. Because powerlifting is such an unbelievable competition to watch in general. But I just know that the training is so technical. The nutrition is so intense. I love, I'm trying to think of that book, that super famous powerlifting book. I listened to it on Audible a while back. Who's that powerlifting coach that is super rude and aggressive and damn, I'm trying to remember his name.
You're not talking about CT Fletcher, or?
No, he's like he's got a real Southern accent. I just know it from the book. I think it's on powerlifting, or I forgot the name of the book. On strength, but it's like a pretty classic powerlifting book. This guy only believes in barbell lifting. He does not believe in anything else. So listening to that book and just sort of listening to the way he trains his athletes, some of the best in the world at the time, I was just blown away, because fitness is such a huge part of my life. And I'm a competitive men's physique bodybuilder. And so I just know how intense it is. When I'm in a prep, I can only imagine what it's like walking into a world-class powerlifting competition. I can't even imagine. I also want to mention, though, that Big E is also an actor. He's a voice actor. He has a show on Adult Swim called Lazar Wolf, or he plays Lazar Wolf on Adult Swim. And you've got a new project that you're launching called Our Heroes Rock, which I would love to talk to you about as well. But I just want to give you a little rundown about how the podcast goes. So Born and Made Podcast is a podcast I launched about a year and a half ago. And I didn't want to just, do another podcast where I interview cool people and talk about, all the awesome things that they've done. I really wanted to do something that had a little bit more substance to it. And I've always had this question that I've asked myself and other people in my network. Do you believe you were born to do what you do, or were you made over time through grit, grind, and hustle? And that is the question of the podcast. It's called Born or Made because I actually am really interested in finding out from people like you that have inspired me and millions others, if you think you were born with it. I have my belief here is that everybody that is brought into this world, I think it's like there's like 1 in a billion chance that you're actually alive, right? Like there's like 1 in a billion chance that you're blessed to be on the planet Earth. And once we're here, I believe in my core that everybody has some sort of inherent talent. The journey in life is to try to figure out what that talent is as fast as humanly possible, and then go all in. That's my belief. But I've had a lot of people on the show that actually think that what they do and how well they've done at it has nothing to do with nature and has all to do with nurture. So the way I like to get there is I like to get your story, man. So we start sort of as far back as you can remember, and you give us your story so that we can kind of see what it was like living the life of Ettore from a young kid to the epic place you're in now, just crushing life.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I'll start from the beginning. I'll try to not make this long and boring. But I was born in Tampa, Florida, March 1st, 1986. Both of my parents are immigrants. My dad grew up in Jamaica, born and raised, and my mom grew up in this very tiny island that probably very few people have heard of. It's called Montserrat. Actually, Reading Rainbow did a little piece on it because 2/3 of the island was destroyed by a volcano many years ago. But anyway, so I grew up the son of immigrants. I have 2 sisters. I'm the oldest. And my dad, for some reason, decided to wait until he was 49 to have his first child, which was me. So yeah, my dad is still around in his mid-80s, still kicking it. But my dad was a preacher growing up. I grew up in a really strict household, but I started doing sports from as early as I can remember. I can't remember the age, but I was doing karate classes around like age 3 or 4. I was playing tackle football at age 7 to 11. Right after that, I played soccer in middle school. I wrestled in middle school, and then I really just focused on amateur wrestling throughout middle school and high school. Football was always my dream. That was my very first love. But my parents wanted me to have a great education, and they wanted me to go to a prep school. Unfortunately, the school is incredible. It's called Tampa Prep, downtown Tampa, but they didn't offer football. So for me, I had no choice in the matter, and I started wrestling really just because it was the most physical thing that I could find. That kind
Can
of
I just ask you a question though?
Yeah.
So you had this drive from as early as you can remember. I mean, I'm imagining that your parents helped motivate you or helped get you into karate class at 3 years old. But can you pinpoint like a moment in your adolescence where you said, I'm gonna do this. This is what I'm gonna do, and can you like tell us why? Why did you want to do that?
So I don't remember the exact moment where I just figured out, hey, I want to be a pro athlete. I want to play pro football. But man, I grew up in Florida, and like football was king. And to me, I guess it felt like the closest thing to being a superhero was being like a pro athlete. And that's also like why I really gravitated towards weightlifting and weight training, is because I felt like I had this ability to transform my body and to be larger than life. And I was hooked immediately. So I think that was always it. And I just always felt, for me in sports, that's where I always felt the most free. You know that high you get when you're in the zone or whatever you want to call it. But when you're in that flow state, even if it's as simple as like even just being a kid on the playground and you're running by the other kids and just those moments where you just really feel like you can almost do anything athletically, those were the moments that captured my imagination more than anything. And I did well in school. I always really enjoyed school, but I always felt just truly free on the field, on the wrestling mats. That's where I felt the most alive.
Were
So
you always better than everyone else?
man, I, for the most part, I was never the guy. So even like, so we used to have this thing called the turkey trot. And it was always my best friend growing up, played football at Hawaii, Kevin Peoples. He was always the fastest, but I was always number two. So I was always behind him. And even when I played youth football as well. And I ended up playing on my team was a kid named Denard Spin. And he would go on to play Major League Baseball for like 15 years. So I was always like one of the best, but there's always someone who is a little bit faster than me or a better athlete. Uh, until maybe high school, where I started wrestling and I was the best guy on the team. But I always knew I was better than most, but there was always someone who was just a bit better for the most part, which was good for me because it always gave me someone to try to push towards.
I wanna mention something real quick. So you focused all of your energy in sports anyway in high school on wrestling. However, you went on to go play college football. So how did that happen, dude? Like, how did you just like, did you just walk on and
I got wildly lucky. So I spent 6 years at Tampa Prep, not being able to play football at all, kind of devastated, but just trying to figure it out. In the back of my head, I'm still playing college football. I don't know how. I don't know if I'm walking on. I don't know what it is, but somehow I was like, all right, I'm stuck, not stuck here because I'm really fortunate to have been at Tampa Prep for all those years. But it's like this is my situation right now, but I'm gonna find a way. And essentially, so after my junior year, we had to have a sit down at Tampa Prep because it became too expensive. I had two sisters who were also going there, and my parents just couldn't afford it anymore. Great school, but just really expensive. So we ended up transferring, and I went to a public school for 1 year. And if you follow recruiting at all, if you're into college sports at all, if you're into college football, your junior year is your most critical year for getting recruited. And I didn't have a junior year of tape at all. So my goal is just play one season, hopefully get as much attention as possible. If I have to walk on, I walk on, whatever. But I was just really excited. Finally, I get an opportunity to see how good I truly am. I think I'm going to be good at this, but who knows? And I showed up. I'm only like 5'10", 5'11". I played the start of the season. I was 230, 235. And I thought, all right, I'm going to be a linebacker. But I was thinking it just didn't feel natural. So they ended up moving me to defensive tackle. And to think at under 6 feet tall, playing at 235 pounds, to think that I could play major football was ridiculous. Because for anyone who doesn't know, at that position, ideally, if I was going to pick a recruit out of high school, I want him to be about 6'4", probably about 300 pounds. You want a big body. And I was not that. But I ended up playing that season, and I didn't really have any offers. I had a good year, but I didn't set the world on fire as far as, kind of being put on these all county, all state lists. People just didn't really know me. And I got extremely lucky. So what happened was the season finished. I had some small schools kind of offer me or say, hey, come out. I was like, I don't know. I'm just not really feeling, I want to play big time football. So I was pretty much the day that changed my life was after the season, our weight room at school. I went to Wharton was the name of the high school. I went to Wharton and I used to work out after school just in the gym. So thankfully, I got a God bless the architect who put this together. Thankfully, the weight room is connected to the coach's office. So any of the recruiters, college coaches who wanted to talk to our head coach at the time, they would have to go through the weight room. And it's not a huge weight room, but you walk through the weight room 20, 25 feet, not that far. And then you get directly to the coach's office. So thankfully, Coach Phil Parker at the University of Iowa, he recruited Florida, the state of Florida at the time. Iowa had just come off, they were number 8 in the country had just won, I think, had just won. They were co-Big Ten champions. The program was a great spot. And so Coach Parker walks in to talk to my coach, and he sees me benching 315 for a set of 10. So I'm benching 315 at age like 17, 18, and kind of stopped for a second. I didn't know this at the time, but he stopped for a second, goes in to see my coach, and asks who I was. And he was there to recruit guys a year younger than me, to recruit juniors, guys who had just finished their junior season. And thankfully, he inquired about me, and they thankfully had an opening. They had a guy who had just left the program as a defensive lineman early. I can't remember the circumstances, but they had an opening for that scholarship. And man, it really just reminds me life can be just really crazy at times, because beyond that happenstance, the defensive line coach at the University of Iowa actually played for my mentor and my defensive line coach in high school. He played for him like 20, 30 years prior at a very small school called Tarkio College. So it was just this weird happenstance, being in the right place at the right time, having the right relationships. And Vincent Davis was my high school coach. And he was like a mentor for me, and maybe like an uncle, was just really there for me. And the fact that he was there and was able to vouch with Coach Aiken, just everything lined up, because there was no reason that I should have been offered with only 1 year at under 6 feet tall. I spent that offseason just eating and lifting. I gained 40 pounds, got a lot stronger, and I ended up being about 275 by the time I graduated. So I had some bulk on me. But yeah, man, I just, it's one of those stories, like that day just vastly changed my life. Even though football didn't really work out with me because of a bunch of injuries, but because I went to Iowa, that got me to WWE, which clearly 12 years later and counting has really changed my life.
Dude, that is an unbelievable story. And I think what I could take from that, and I think what anybody listening can take from that, is you never know who's watching, right? You never, ever know who's watching. And so self-awareness for me is such a huge part of not only, like, I'm not talking about success in business, I'm just talking about success in life, right? Like self-awareness is such a fucking thing, man. It's, if you're able to just, if you put in work and you put your head down, 9 out of 10 times, you might not get exactly what you're gunning for, but you'll get pretty damn close. And I've learned that through my journey. You know, like I say it all the time in my content: want plus do equals have. And that's just the bottom line, right? Like it just doesn't go further than that. If you want something, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. You only get things when you do them. And so, I mean, that to me, that story defines that phrase to a T, right? Like you were just getting after it and putting your head down and doing the do, and it worked out, man. And now you are the guy. Well, I think you've also held the longest tag team championship belt in WWE history. Is that right?
Yeah, so we were fortunate. We broke a record that had stood for over 20 years. We held the tag team titles for 483 consecutive days, which is like damn near unheard of. So we've had a ton of success. And man, like your point really resonates. And I tell people all the time, like I've worked in, and this is not to disparage anyone, but I've worked in entertainment long enough, and I've seen people with little talent, with not really a ton to offer, but because they were bold enough to not doubt themselves, they were bold enough to just be in the right position at the right time. I see way too many people who are talented who just don't believe in themselves enough to actually think greatness is truly achievable. Who will not, you know what I mean? So like you can, like you said, it starts with wanting something, but you also have to, like, people have to get out of their own way. And that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, I'm not someone who brims with confidence. I've had to learn over time to be more confident, but I'm not like the guy who always knew he was going to make it. I knew I wanted something, and I was filled with self-doubt. But for me, I just had to learn to kind of shut my brain off and jump. Like, stop questioning yourself. Stop believing everyone else is better than you. Just do it. Just do the thing. Just shut off the self-doubt and make the leap. And if you fail, so what? But man, I'm so glad I bet on myself. Like, I bet on myself so many times, even at times where I had a long list of reasons this wasn't going to work. but it's something I really wanted, or I wanted to try, and I was okay with failing. And that's like my biggest thing for anyone is I just see way too many people. I have way too many friends like this who I see them and I'm like, you don't see yourself the way I see you because you have so much greatness in you. You just have to that you're too many people are their own worst enemy.
Mm.
And like that's the biggest thing, man. Just get out of your way and take that leap of faith.
You know, it's so interesting that you say that too, because one of the things that I also preach a lot about is telling people when you notice something special about them. You know, like it's and I sort of have baked it into my DNA. I think I was actually born a people pleaser and born with this, like, you know, human engagement, and like what we're doing right now is what I live for. I love making people happy, and I love just this, the connection between human beings. I think it is where it starts and where it ends, right? Like if you can be present and you can have this is a special time. And unfortunately, myself included, lots of people walk around not understanding their greatness or not appreciating their greatness. And so what I learned early on as a business owner, that if I wanted people to really succeed with me, not for me, with me, I needed to tell them how awesome they were all the fucking time. I needed to, and it wasn't like something that like it wasn't like pulling teeth from Godzilla for me, but I just got into the habit of seeing somebody do something awesome or walk in with a smile, right? Like I'm in the restaurant business, or I was in the restaurant business for a very long time, and a smile is everything, right? Like it's just everything, man. Like you don't have to. If you can smile genuinely in the restaurant industry and look somebody in the eyes and welcome them into the place, like you've won. And so my job as a business owner was to make people smile as often as possible. People that worked for me first, right? Like I wanted the staff to be so fired up about their work that it just was a ripple effect for the guests, right? So I learned there that telling people how awesome they were not only was something great for the business at large, but it just makes people feel good, because a lot of people walk around not appreciating themselves nearly as much as they should. And so that's awesome, man. I appreciate you saying that. I couldn't agree more with that. So let's get back to the story though. I want to hear. So you end up playing football for Iowa.
Yeah. And it's my dream. Like college football was my very first love. And obviously the goal was always to get to the NFL, but like we're at the University of Iowa. We just finished 8th in the nation. My defensive line coach had just won assistant coach of the year, like a year or two prior. A school that cranks out pros. And, you know, I get there during the summer, workouts are going great. I start getting once camp starts, I get some reps with the ones, and those are the starters. And I'm not going to be a starter because it was a senior defensive line. Man, 3 of those 4 guys ended up playing like several years in the NFL. And one, Jonathan Babineau, played over a decade, started with the Falcons, was on that Super Bowl team that unfortunately lost. They gave that 28-3 lead, but like played with some real talent. Matt Roth, who played for years with the Dolphins. And I was, you know, things were going well. And then I tear my ACL. I tear my ACL at 18 before the season even starts. Go through rehab, go through all of that to come back the very next year, almost to the day, tear the other ACL. And man, like dealing with an ACL tear and all that rehab is hard enough. And going back to back without really getting that opportunity to show your skills, show what you can do on the field. So again, I got another rehab. And then during bowl prep, I tear my pec. And then finally, my redshirt sophomore year, I get to play. I didn't start because I'm, coming back from the injuries, and we had some other guys ahead of me trying to get my groove back. But the nice part with Iowa was we had a defensive line rotation. So just because you didn't start didn't mean you were going to play. So I was still playing, about maybe 10 to 15 snaps a game. And mind you, that season, we played Ohio State at home. Game day came to Kinnick, to Iowa City. Ohio State was number 1 in the nation. Unfortunately, we lost to them. We play at the Big House, the University of Michigan, which holds over 100,000 people, when they were number 2 in the nation. And we're only down by a field goal at half, and I'm playing. So, man, it's like you get these opportunities to play against some of the best in the country, guys who will go on to become NFL starters and Pro Bowlers. So I'm really grateful for that. But at the end of that regular season, I broke my right patella. And I said, you know what, enough is enough. They advised me to take my medical hardship, which essentially means, hey, you're done playing football, but we're going to honor your scholarship until you graduate. And they did that, and I appreciate that. They didn't have to. And that's kind of the cutthroat world of college football. Is it's a year-to-year scholarship. And the general thought is we're going to extend you for as long as your eligibility allows. But in some cases, man, they could pull scholarships. So I was grateful they took care of me there. But man, it was hard. It was really hard dealing with all those injuries, whatnot. Just the physical toll was rough, but the mental toll, I wasn't ready for. So just dealing with just being really depressed, with feeling alone, with feeling like I was a disappointment. There was a lot of that, and I'm thankful that my coach, Coach Aiken, pretty much forced me to get into therapy, and in many ways, I feel like therapy saved me. It gave me the tools I still use today. It saved me from a really dark place at the time, and I'm just really grateful for that time. And yeah, man, Marvin Sims, man. Unfortunately, he passed away before I really had an opportunity to. He was dealing with cancer kind of quietly, and he passed away right after I signed with WWE, a little bit after I signed with WWE, and that's the one regret I have, because in my mind I was always waiting to have made it, and I wanted to make it, get called up to the main roster, do something big, and then I was gonna call him and just tell him how much he meant to me and how much I appreciated it, and I made it, so thank you. And I never got that opportunity, and I hope he knew, but just an incredible human being, and really, really helped me a ton. But yeah, the injuries were rough, man. But I'm hard headed, clearly, because you would think I'd be done with sports and athletics, but I decided to start pro wrestling after all that, and it's worked out.
Well, dude, I mean, I think that is what makes you you, right? Like, I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today, and I've had the pleasure and really the gratitude I have for the ability to mentor other people has been awesome for me. And I was on the phone with an 18-year-old kid today who's going through it. And full transparency, I've been sober for 17 years now, or just under 17 years. And like you, therapy saved your life. I got really lucky and was able to get thrust into a group of people that really helped walk me through, pulling myself out of this deep, dark place. And I got to tell you something, man, like, I was talking to this kid today, and he's going through it really, really bad. And I've learned so much more through the hard times that I've had to go through in life than the summiting or the peaking at the top of the mountain, man. I really have. And so much so, I can't say that I love losing or I love the hard times or the dark places, but I will say that when I'm there, and I'm a human being, just like all of us, we all sometimes just wake up with a shitty day. I mean, it's like, like it happens. And sometimes it happens a lot. I actually, instead of running from those times and those moments, like I used to do, like habitually, I actually kind of, like, I'm aware. I say to myself, okay, this is not awesome, but I'm going to dig into it. I'm going to dig because this is where I learn. This is how I learn. Like, if I actually take it even further and bust out like my notebook that I have with me at all times, and I write everything down. And if I'm like, all right, dude, I'm going through something rough. Let me learn from this. Let me take this opportunity, because I'm not going to try to shake it. I'm not going to, I'm just going to actually sit in it for as long as it's here and learn from it. And man, I'm so grateful that I have that ability to do that, because I think the mental fortitude that it takes for someone like you, who actually realized his dream and just got injury after injury after injury, can only be devastating. I can only imagine that. Like, my favorite football player, of all time right now, is just coming off, and actually, he, like, body type, I mean, you guys are like the exact same person. You and Saquon.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's not, he's a force to be reckoned with, but it's hard to keep him healthy. It's just hard because he's such a animal. And, like I can only imagine what it's like for him, who's playing for a team who unfortunately is not crushing it right now. But he knows that if he was playing on the field and doing what he does best, the New York Giants would be in a much better place. I mean, when his rookie year, I was like, holy shit, this might be it. This is the dream for me. I am as much a Giant fan as I am Michael Chernow. So what was the transition from, taking your medical and sort of trying to figure out what the next step was?
Yeah. So I was a bit aimless afterwards. So I was still in school, finishing up getting my degree. But at the whole time, I felt this pressure that what are you gonna do with your life? Man, that's heavy. When you're like, so I always knew parents always instilled in me education's important. I always did like fairly well in school. I ended up getting my degree, but like that thing was daunting. This dark cloud of what do you do with the rest of your life? Imagine being 22 and like, all right, what am I gonna do for the next 40 something years? Like that thing is heavy. And so that really weighed on me. And again, man, I'm just grateful for having like good people or the right people or who just said the right thing at the right time in my life. So I had a professor at Iowa, I took a bunch of her classes, Professor Parrott, and she just for some reason one day came up to me and said, have you ever considered going to graduate school? And at the time, man, my plan was, all right, I'm going to graduate. I don't really know what I want to do, but I'll just move back to Tampa, live with my parents for a little bit, and then just figure it out from there. Who knows, get a job and just hopefully things fall into place. But when she said that, because it's something I never considered, I just didn't want to be in debt. Thankfully, I had an academic ride that gave me some extra money, but I also, I had my athletic scholarship. And I didn't want to be in debt with school. And thankfully, I was able to actually like make some money in school. I came out in the plus. And so I was like, I just thought I didn't really want to be in debt with grad school. But she told me, you know what? I think we can find a spot for you as a TA. So that way your school will be paid for and actually you'll get some extra money as well. And I thought, you know what? Why not? So I did all the paperwork and everything, applied. They accepted me into the program, thankfully. I got the TA position and I stayed on campus. So I stayed on campus for another year. It's a 2-year program. And my plan at the time was I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Sports management was kind of that direction. I wanted to be an athletic director just because I always loved sports. Like I said, I always loved sports. And I thought, you know what? My time might be done, but it would be great to be, even like at a small school, to be an associate AD and help scholar athletes and just kind of still stay in sports. And that was kind of the plan. And I also talked about pursuing a PhD, which would mean an additional 5-6 years being broke. And I thought, you know what, let's try it. But man, thankfully, I spent a year in grad school. And then again, just out of the blue, someone came up to me and said, hey, have you ever considered WWE? And then again, my life changed. And that only happened. Again, I got to Iowa out of some weird happenstance, being at the right place at the right time. I got to WWE because I was still on campus in grad school. And someone who came up to me was actually Mike Humple. He had got drafted by the Steelers, but he had a neck injury and was kind of done playing. But he was still working out at Iowa. And at the time, they had every right to tell me, like, all right, here's your scholarship, but, enjoy campus. We don't really want to see you around. But thankfully, Coach Doyle, who was the strength coach at the time, said, hey, we still want you around the program. Come in and lift when guys on the team aren't lifting. So I was still there. I was still in the weight room. And that helped me because it gave me a little bit of support too. Football really becomes your family. Those are the guys you spend so much time around. And thankfully, I was still able to stay connected a little bit. But then Mike Humple came up to me, and Mike came up to me because he knew Mike Doherty, who was a booster at the University of Iowa. And Mike Doherty randomly met Jim Ross on a plane. They had a flight together and happened to have the connecting flight together as well. And they ended up talking. And Mike Doherty, because he's friends with Dan Gable. If anyone doesn't know who Dan Gable is, he's probably the biggest name in all of amateur wrestling. He's a legend. And so the plan was essentially for Mike Doherty to say, hey, if any Iowa wrestlers are done with their amateur careers who might want to start pro wrestling, let me set you up as kind of a liaison. And yeah, so Mike Humple was friends with Mike Doherty, Mike Doherty was connected with Jim Ross. Just again, all these weird, they feel like happenstances, but it also feels like surely there's got to be a plan. None of this just randomly happens. There's some kind of a plan in place. And you know what? I was doing well in grad school, but I just didn't know if this was like, am I really going to sit in a cubicle or at a desk for the rest of my life for the next 40, 50 years? I felt like I still had more in the tank. I had more to give athletically, despite all the injuries. And you know what? I said, let's just give it a shot. Why not? So we ended up taking, the first thing is we connected with the office with WWE. They had me take some pictures half naked, just in my shorts, have an idea of what my body looks like. And then they flew me down to Tampa for a tryout for a week. And again, like, of all the cities in the world, I knew little to nothing about WWE. I was a pro wrestling fan at the time as a kid, but I stopped watching after about 2000. So I had this period of like almost a decade where I wasn't really into wrestling. Wasn't following. And the fact that FCW, if I got hired, I would be moving back to Tampa where I could easily live with my folks. I was like, hey, you know what? If I'm horrible at this and they fire me in 3 months, all right, I'll just live with my folks for a little bit and then I'll just go back to grad school. Maybe I'll start a semester late. Who knows? But let's just give it a shot. And 12 years later, a job that I took on a whim, I'm still here. And it really is incredible. It's like when I do my best because gratitude is really important to me. And meditation, another godsend. And meditation really teaches you about gratitude because I really think you enjoy life more when you're grateful for all you have. So I have like really embraced being grateful for all that I have in my life. And I'm so wildly grateful for these random people who might have just not, like Professor Parrott, she probably had no idea how much that her asking me to go to grad school completely changed my life. Same thing, like, Coach Parker randomly being in the weight room at the time. All these things that seem so random that completely changed my life for the better. I'm just wildly grateful.
I'm listening to you, and as you're talking, things just continue to pop up in my mind. Like someone said to me way back in the day, lucky people put themselves in lucky situations. And I believe that, man. Like you could call it happenstance, or you can call it you were in the weight room at that very moment because that's exactly where you knew you had to be, right? You were in school and you were doing well, given all the shit that you just went through, and you were still doing well. And a professor of yours asked you if you've ever thought of graduate school. If you had taken the injuries and said, fuck it, I'm just gonna check out, chances are that never would have happened, right? And so I think the lesson learned here is lucky people put themselves in lucky situations. And so if anybody listening is wondering how to get out, just start doing the shit that you actually want to do, and do it till you can't do it anymore. Do it till you're dead, right? Like that's what I was also having a conversation with a guy that I'm soon to be working with earlier today, later, as I launch this new business. And he was basically like, oh, I follow you on Instagram and like you're, it's inspirational stuff. And I'm like, look, man, at the end of the day, I think that passion doesn't really get you very far. Passion with action, unstoppable, just unstoppable. Like if you're passionate about something, and if you're not passionate about something and you're listening to this, bring out your fucking shovel and start digging, man, because I promise you that you are passionate about something. I guarantee it. My wife, we've been married for a long time. We got married when we were young, and we, because of the pandemic, we moved out of Brooklyn, we moved to upstate New York, and she was like, you know what? I think I want to get a horse. And I was like, horse? And she was like, yeah, I think I want to get a horse. And I'm telling you something, she bought a horse, and I just watched my wife like open up, like She rides that horse every single day. I mean, she is more passionate. She goes on these crazy 35-mile races. I mean, it's just wild to watch something like that happen. And so, you know, I just think that is such a key thing where, like, you know, the happenstance, the coincidence stuff is, I believe, lucky people putting themselves in lucky situations. I also think that you mentioned gratitude, and I want to talk about meditation too, because it's something that I'm a big practitioner of as well. But, you know, like, I've said this to a number of people: stop wanting what you don't have and start wanting what you do have, right? Like, because wanting what you don't have is just a rat race. And I'm not saying don't set goals. I'm not saying don't have aspirations. But when you can actually start wanting what you've already got, that gratitude is going to propel you way further than just living the life of want more, want more. And me moving out of Brooklyn, I'm born and raised in New York City my whole life, and moving up to, like, literally rural New York. I mean, I'm like in the middle of, like, the woods. Has been an amazing experience for me, only because I had no choice but to appreciate what I have. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't walk out of my apartment and be inspired by all this shit going on around me. I'm like, you know, you get what you get here, right? Like, and that's such a cool thing. Let's just talk about meditation for a bit, because I would love to hear your experience with it.
Yeah. So essentially, it was a few years ago. I have a friend. She worked with WWE briefly, kind of as a freelancer. Her name's Kat Simpson. But essentially, she had been on Headspace for a little bit, and I can't remember why we were talking about it, but she suggested it to me, and I was kind of doing it off and on and enjoying it, but I didn't really have a regular program. I wasn't as consistent as I should have been. And I would use excuses like, all right, I got a 5 a.m. flight and I can't get up in the morning. Life gets in the way and whatnot. These were excuses. But when the pandemic started, I said, if I can't make a commitment to meditate for 10 to 15 minutes a day when I'm in the house every single day, then I have zero excuses. So I really made sure during the pandemic, like, I'm going to make a concerted effort to it was really just like, if you don't do something now, I knew I was going to unravel. So I decided I'm going to lose 15 pounds, which I did. And I'm also going to make sure I meditate every single day. So I did it. And it's really been a godsend. And I try to tell people too, don't expect necessarily to have your whole life changed after one session. But for me, it's been about the consistency, because I think over time, it has really changed the way I perceive myself, the way I perceive the world. But yeah, man, the nice part is, and I know people use other apps and whatnot, but I really like guided meditation. And again, like, Kat got me this, my friend Kat got me a subscription that, allows me to use the whole site. But I love it, man. It's really easy. It's 10, 15 minutes a day. For a while, I was doing it before I went to bed, but I really like starting my day with it. So that's what I've been doing for like the last year or so, is starting my day with meditation. And I just feel like it puts me in a path to be more mentally healthy, to be more focused. And meditation, I'll tell people too, like, meditation for me does not exist solely within those minutes you're meditating. But you take those tools that you learn with meditation, and they color the rest of your day, the rest of your week. It's not a practice that lives and dies within that time frame. Just having those moments where I am able to be more present, just make, like, I'm automatically more present than I was a couple years ago because of the practice. So I'll tell anyone, if you're dealing with mental health issues, if you're, whatever it is you're dealing with, if it's not even that severe, I think meditation is useful for everyone. And there was actually something I saw. So there's a documentary on Gary Shandling that I think was either on HBO or Showtime from a few years ago. And I remember they interviewed Sarah Silverman, says something like, so Gary Shandling really got into like Zen. He was very Zen, and a lot of that stuff. And one of the things she said was Gary Shandling isn't Zen or doesn't pursue this practice because he is Zen. It's because he needs it more than anyone. And that's the same thing. Like I'm not, I don't see myself as this super centered, figured it all out, a master of meditation just because I understand it all. But it's because I really needed it. It's because for a while, as someone who really struggled with depression for many years, in fact, like had stints in psychiatric wards because I like, there are times where I was like, I don't think I'm going to survive. Like, I'm not going to make it. Like, this is not a sustainable way to live. And I need it. And that's why, like, I don't want anyone to think I have it all figured out by any means, but I'm just trying to grasp at all these tools to help myself. And I feel like that's the start, man. You gotta save yourself in many ways. And that's the beautiful thing is when I was young, man, it was not manly to go to therapy. It was not manly to talk about your feelings. So my early life is about repressing things. It's about repressing my feelings. It's about repressing my sadness. It's about repressing all those things. And I had to learn over time to let those things go, to be comfortable talking to people about the way I feel, that I can be sad, that it's okay to cry as a man. It doesn't make me any less masculine, but like there's just so much pressure, especially as men and athletes, to repress and to be masculine and to be above it all and to be strong. And that's just not a sustainable way to be mentally healthy. So thankfully, I've just been really fortunate to be around the right people who've introduced me to meditation, who forced me to go to therapy. And yeah, man, I just really feel blessed. Like you said, lucky people put them, I feel like in many ways I'm very fortunate, but I tried my best to put myself in positions to work hard and to put myself in a position to be better. And yeah, so meditation I recommend for everyone.
So what app do you use?
I use Headspace. I know other people use like Calm and other ones. I just kind of found Headspace. I haven't shopped around. I found Headspace and I liked it. So I haven't looked around, but Headspace is what I use.
It reminds me of a philosophy that I live by, and then I want to talk about habits. I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I've taken some shit for saying this, but I have learned over the years to put myself first, always. And I'm married. I have 2 kids. I have businesses, and I love all of them. But I am the most important person in my life, and I'll tell you why. And this is the crux of, I think, what the crux of my gratitude, happiness, and ultimately success is this idea that I know for sure that if I am well inside, if I feel well inside, I'm a better father, a better husband, a better son, brother, employer, friend, all that shit. Like I am just better, right? And so I'm not saying that I sacrifice time with my family, my business, and stuff like that. I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to spend 2 hours by myself with meditation, prayer, fitness, and my nutrition. And those are the 4 pillars for me. Meditation and prayer kind of go hand in hand. But without fitness for me, I'm useless. Like it has become that fitness is freedom for me without a question of a doubt. It just is. And so, and I get it done first thing in the morning so that I don't ever, there's no stress weighing over me, halfway through the day. Oh, you got to go work out. Like I'm in there, before the sun comes up. And so I think that if that philosophy was sort of imprinted in more people's minds, that if you feel well inside, you are able to exude a better version of yourself to the masses. It just, there would be a massive shift, man. There would be a massive shift. And meditation definitely plays a role for me. I've got a long list of habits. I'm launching a business in August called Creatures of Habit, because habits, I believe, are everything. They will make you and they will absolutely break you. Are there any habits outside of meditation that you consistently do on a daily basis to make you who you are?
Man, I would say I'm with you with fitness. I know it's kind of a requirement for my job, but I'm going to be doing something as long as my body allows. And it's been I can't fathom my life without it. And for a while it was powerlifting. So we're talking about lifting really heavy. And now for me it's changed a little bit. And there might be a time where it's not, where maybe it's more yoga, but I have to do something physically because it gives me a sense of peace, that the serotonin, there's so much that I love about it. So fitness is definitely one of those things. But for me, yeah, man, it's pretty much meditation is a big thing. I don't have a ton of other things that I must do, but it's fairly in line with the, kind of what you laid out as well. Yeah, yeah, fitness and meditation are things that I'll definitely daily. I take one day off a week from lifting, but beyond that, yeah, those are pretty much the things. And I kind of want to backtrack a second because I'm spot on with you. The way I said it, and kind of my little mantra is, when I started to see the light in myself, I could see the light in others. So that's been my thing, is like the more I've healed and grown, I for sure have become a better person. I've become more giving. So I'm spot on with you. Is I think we all need to work on healing ourselves and growing, and things that we need to do to be content, because I really think it allows you to be the kind of man or woman that you want to be in your life when you start healing those holes and fissures in your own life.
Um, I think that's beautifully said. I couldn't see the light in others until I started to see the light in myself. And yeah, man, I'm gonna take that one. I'm gonna take
That's all
that one.
yours. That's all
I'm
yours.
gonna take
Yeah.
that one.
I'm humble.
I 5'11", 285 pounds, lifting an insane amount of weight. There has to be some sort of nutritional protocol that you stick to. Can you just share with us what it's like a day of eating for you when you're like in the thick of it at your peak shape?
Yeah. So for me, I know there are other people who are more regimented. I like having something because it's different. Like so I never actually did a bodybuilding show, but I was prepping for one right before I signed with WWE. And for me, I can be extremely regimented within that, like, hey, here's your 8 to 12 week period. But now it's different with WWE because we don't have an off season, and I need to find something that's sustainable that won't drive me crazy. But what works for me, so typically on a day like today, I'll have 6 meals a day, and usually 2 of those meals are shakes. And I actually got hooked up with this awesome supplement company, Astroflave. So I love their protein. So I'll use their stuff. I'll make my own acai bowls in the morning before I lift, and I love it. It's a Brazilian superfruit. I'll put like bananas in there and granola. Start my day from there. So it's usually, so today it's wake up. I wake up around 5:30. Wake up, have my shake at 5:30. Have my acai bowl around 9 o'clock. I'm at the gym by 10. I'll take my second shake with some dextrose in there as soon as my workout is over. I'll get home and I'll usually get some carbs. I usually like oatmeal. Oatmeal is just easier. It's a nice clean carb. Oatmeal with something like I have this obsession with just raw fish. So it's a big poke obsession. I switch between poke and sushi. So a day like today, I might get some sashimi, just a bunch of various raw fish, and I'll have that with my oatmeal. And then my next 3 meals, so the rest of my meals throughout the day, probably another 2 hours, I'll have some more sashimi. And I'm trying to implement some more vegetables in my life as well. So it's a lot of spinach and broccoli, Brussels sprouts, stuff like that as well. And that's about it.
I've got something for you, dude. I'm launched. So oatmeal is a big part of my life. I've been eating oatmeal like for years and years. The guys that grabbed me up when I was 23 years old saw that I was, walking a thin line between life and death. Basically, picked me up and dragged me to a Muay Thai kickboxing facility, and they said, "You need to change your life, and I'm going to help you do it through getting your ass kicked and putting you on a meal plan." And that meal plan at that time, because I didn't know what the fuck to eat at all. I mean, I'd spent the last 10 years being a complete knucklehead. They were like, "You're going to eat oatmeal in the morning, and then you're going to eat grilled chicken and broccoli for the rest of the day. And that's all you're going to eat." And that was like the beginning of it. That was like the beginning of it. I actually became insanely passionate about Muay Thai and competed in Muay Thai, trained Muay Thai for about 12 years. and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And like those, I think, I mean, that taught me real discipline and that, but oatmeal. So I'm launching this business, Creatures of Habit. And I've been in the restaurant industry for a really long time, opening restaurants. I wanted to get out of the restaurant business, and the pandemic was my sort of catalyst to do that. I wanted to touch more people with a brand. And so I created this brand, Creatures of Habit, and I'm a big habit guy. I eat oatmeal every single day as my post-workout meal, and that is the first meal of my day because I train fasted. And so I have my oatmeal, I have my protein powder, I have my supplements, my D3, my omega, my vitamins, and I've got my blueberries, and I've got my almonds, and I got all this stuff that I'm like making my first meal of the day with. And so I said, the first thing I want to figure out for Creatures of Habit is I want to put out a product that incorporates all this into one pouch. And so I spent 9 months formulating this oatmeal that has everything I want in it. It's got oats, it's got 30 grams of plant-based protein, it's got 7,000 IUs of D3, it's got 500 milligrams of omega-3s, it's got pink Himalayan salt, it's got pumpkin seeds, flax seeds, it's got all this amazing shit, and it's made in under 3 minutes. And so that's the first thing that I'm launching with Creatures of Habit, and I'm gonna get you a ton of it. So
bless you.
Yeah. Dude, man, this was such an awesome conversation. I cannot thank you enough. I understand why the producer of my podcast, Emilio, is literally your best friend and brother. You are an awesome dude, man. And you've done so many amazing things for all of us to look up to and aspire to. So thank you, brother, for being on, man. I really appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And I love what you're doing, man. It's right in line with what I'm trying to do and trying to grow. We have such a finite amount of time on this earth, man. And I hope we all strive to grow and to help others. So I love your mission. I love what you're doing. And thanks for having me.
Dude, real quick, before you go, I just want you to tell us about our Heroes Rock.
Beautiful. I didn't want to keep you, but I appreciate you throwing that out there. So Our Heroes Rock, we had a Kickstarter. Essentially what it is so we're using hip hop, we're using 3D animation, we're using science fiction to tell the story of Ruby Bridges. For anyone who doesn't know, Ruby Bridges was a 6-year-old Black girl in New Orleans in 1960, and she integrated an all-white school. And for me, it's become really important. After the death of George Floyd, I kept thinking, all right, I can't dismantle systemic racism and all these things. I kind of felt helpless, but what can I do? Thankfully, I have some semblance of a platform. And so I got with just two incredible, brilliant human beings who happen to be my friends as well, Andreas Hale and Jonathan Davenport. And we started a Kickstarter. Thankfully, we were able to raise a lot of money. It's a very expensive endeavor with 3D animation. So we're working on it right now. But our hope is sometime soon, hopefully this year for sure, we'll drop our short film. And our hope is to be able to tell more of these stories of these Black heroes who we don't hear enough of, because I think so many of us haven't heard some of these stories until college or later in life. And I thought it would just be really cool to find a fun way. In many ways, I always describe this as the spiritual successor to Schoolhouse Rock. But I also think of a show like, The Magic School Bus. If you're around our age, you probably watched The Magic School Bus. And I just love that it was fun and informative. And kind of the thing that I've used is I want Our Heroes Rock to be like applesauce, in the sense that when I was a kid, if I had vitamins or nutrients and, or whatever was medicine that my parents needed to feed me, oftentimes they'd crush it up and they'd put it in the applesauce and mix it in. And I wouldn't even know that I had the vitamins or the medicine in the applesauce. And that's what we want this to be in the show, this series, the short film to be, is that you're just having this delicious, very entertaining, very engaging applesauce. But when you walk away, you have this jingle, you have this song. We have Rhapsody, who is a 2-time Grammy nominee, and she's going to tell, we can't release it right now, but we have the song and we absolutely love it. But she's going to tell the story of Ruby Bridges in this very fun and engaging way for kids. And so that's our hope. And we have the short film. It'll be coming out very, very soon. But man, we have big dreams. We would just love to tell the story of so many Black heroes, and our hope and our, you know, pie in the sky is that we can do a few seasons on Black heroes, but then we can also address so many underrepresented communities as well, whether it's Hispanic communities or gay and lesbian communities. There are just so many stories that I think we should all know and should all be told. So that's been my passion project as of late, and that's what I'm excited about.
Dude, that is awesome. I cannot wait to see it, man. That's so cool, because you're taking something that is so dark and so you know, it just rocked the world, right? It rocked the world, and a lot of people just did not, and myself included, did not know what to do, right? Did not know what to do. And you've taken it and you're creating something that is going to resonate in a really positive way, with, it seems to be, everyone from 3-year-old kids to 103-year-old people, right? Like, it's just such a cool thing that you're doing, man. So I can't wait to check that out. Last question, and I ask everybody at the end of the show. Big E, do you think you were born or were you made?
Oh man, I feel like my answer is a bit of a cop out because I think it's both.
Man.
I know, but here's why. I think for the most part, I would argue that I was made through experience, through relationships, but also, so my dad he's older now, but I clearly got my genetics from him. And you know, if it wasn't for not everyone, you can train as long as you want, but not everyone can train and deadlift 800 something pounds, you know, and doing it clean. USAPL, drug tested, never touched a thing in my life. So there's an element where I have to say, you know what, I did have the genetics that I needed that helped put me in a position. So it's a cop out, and I don't feel good about the cop out.
Let me tell you why it's not a cop out. Because if it's both, you're born, dude. It's just like, if it's both, if you're saying I was born with this, but I was made over time, everybody is made over time. Not everybody is born with the skill set to take to the level that you have, right? And so there have been clear examples of that on this show where people are like, I am made, period. I'm made, done. Like, I was not meant to do what I do today. And I was like, that makes a ton of sense. Someone like you, you're born, my man. You were born.
I think you might be right. You
were born, dude.
All right, let's go with born then.
You're born. Dude, this was awesome, man. I can't thank you enough. I can't wait to put this out. We're putting this out on Wednesday, so it is now Monday. Oh, wait, no, it's Tuesday, right? Monday.
It's Monday.
It's Monday.
Yes.
It's Monday. Still living in my pandemic bubble. This will come out on Wednesday, so in 2 days, and I can't wait to share it with the people, man. You're the man, dude.
Nah, man, you're the man. I appreciate it, man. For real. Thanks, man.
All right, brother. Have a great rest of your day.
Yes, sir. You too.